Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Final Whistle, a Lewiston Tribune sports podcast. I'm Sam Taylor, sports reporter of the Lewiston Tribune and the Moscow Pullman Daily News, and with me is our very own Trevor Junt. Hello, Trevor.
Hey, Sam. How you doing today?
Pretty great. How are you?
Pretty good. It's been fun to cover a lot of this playoff baseball and playoff softball lately, so I've been having a good time covering those.
Yeah, lots of great games out there and lots of fun action, and we're excited to dive right into it. Be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube, watch it at elmtribune.com or wherever podcasts are sold, Spotify, Apple, we got you covered, and we'll be with you every week. So let's talk about Lewiston baseball to start. They faced a situation where they had to win 3 games in a row on the same day in order to extend their season. They won once, and then they lost the second one to end. How did that happen last Saturday for the Bengals?
I mean, yeah, first of all, I'll just say it. Not a fan of the Super Regionals. I think they're just, it's kind of wild. It's kind of crazy. Makes everything too confusing.
Yeah.
But obviously, you have to play into them. That's how it works right now. Lewiston baseball, they lost. They won their first game against the Burley Bobcats, and then lost to the Valley View Falcons, who became the Super Regional champions. And by the way, we're the number 5 ranked team in the state right now. Lewiston baseball really had an excellent season. I mean, they were 14-15, but they really kind of turned it on at the end of the season. They won the district tournament, beat Moscow in that, and just a very interesting season. I think one thing about Lewiston baseball, as much as it sucks to lose and like the season's totally over, they only had 2 seniors. Bryden Shoemaker and Isaiah Raines were their only 2 seniors, and they have like the entire starting lineup is rising juniors, some sophomores, and some freshmen in there. So it's very interesting to see what will happen next season. They have guys like Guy Krasselt, Peyton Bonebreak, Zach Bambasino, River Stamper. The 2 Grady's, Grady Kennedy and Grady Peterson, guys that are just coming up and are going to be important to Lewiston baseball in the future. I think next season it's going to look really different compared to this season. I think that these guys are going to be working together for a full year, get more comfortable around each other, get more comfortable in baseball, and it'll be a different season next year. But overall, great ending to the season. I mean, it sucks to lose. Obviously, Valley View is very good, 24-4 on the season so far. And yeah. So what happened in those games, I guess, is just they couldn't get hits, really. Valley View kind of shut them down. They only scored, I think, 1 run in that last game against Valley View, and it was definitely very tough. Talking to Darren Trainer after the game, or like before the game even, just talked about how like tough these kids are. He said it was a really tough season with injuries. They had injuries to one of their ace pitchers. They had injuries to Keaton Phillips, one of their first basemen. And he felt like they got kicked down all season, but really just gave themselves a chance in districts in the Super Regional. It was part of that. You have any questions about Lewiston baseball in general?
Yeah, so Lewiston baseball, I mean, it's kind of been a great year for Bengal Athletics. You had the Lewiston boys basketball team making a run in the state, first state appearance for them since 2017. And then Lewiston, moving down, there was a lot to say about, the Bengals moving down a level and the Idaho reclassification, how that would affect it. Given that context and the fact, they had played the district tournament championship against Moscow and they won that. I guess, how would you kind of rate how the Bengals season was? Do you think it lived up to expectations? Do you think did they overachieve, underachieve, right? Hit the mark on the head? What was the Bengals season like for them?
I don't think that's a good question. I don't think that they underachieve. Okay. Let's restart here. I would say they didn't overachieve. That's for sure. 14-15 is not like a great season. That's under 500, I think they maybe kind of hit it right on the head because they weren't supposed to. I mean, moving down a league, I guess, is significant. But I don't know. I don't know how the past few years. I think like in Darren Trader's 4 years, they went to state, they lost. They went to state the second year, and then they won the consolation bracket. In his third year, they didn't make the state at all. That was last year, and this year they made the Super Regional, which isn't quite state, but it is kind of state, Right. I don't know. I would say pretty much hit it right on the head. I don't know how like promising their season was at the start of the season. Definitely really tough with the injuries and just the underperforming a little bit there in the middle of the season. Definitely not overperformed, and I wouldn't say quite underperformed either, actually.
Yeah, like you said, it's a young team, and they're going to return a lot of these guys, which is kind of the stark opposite of Moscow, which we'll talk about in a second. But what's impressive to me is that Darren Trainer was literally playing at Lewis Clark State like 6 years ago. In 2019 was his senior year. And, just kind of to pull up his bio on the lcwarriors.com, he led the team, like 544. He led the team in like all these, and batting average 354, hits 73, RBI, total bases, runners caught stealing, tallied 16 doubles, all that stuff.
Team All-American that year,
yeah.
too.
So obviously he's walked the walk,
Mhm.
and so he can talk the talk, all those things. And I think the fact that he's on the south side of 30 really kind of connects him with a lot. I believe maybe he's around there, but really kind of says something to connect the student athletes who he's entrusted with coaching and teaching. I think they really trust him and they buy into him, and I think that shows up on the field.
That's a guy that lives and breathes baseball. You could tell. Also, just interviewing him, like he's such a baseball guy. You could tell the difference between some sport athletes, but just the way they talk. He's a baseball live and breathe guy.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting guy to talk to. He's very cool. Had a fun year just covering them and talking to him after every game. And really just built up a relationship with him, and he was a very cool guy. I think these guys really connect to him. That's a for sure thing. I think that he was talking about Brighton Shoemaker, who's a senior, who's graduating this year. Just him and Isaiah, they worked together all 4 years since they were freshmen. They were the guys that stuck around his entire time coaching so far. And he said that the development of those two guys has just been so important. They're friends of the program forever, he said. And those guys really connected Darren Trainer, I think. I think that you hit that on the head there. Is they just connect to him very well.
Also in the Inland Empire League is Griffin Rod at Moscow. Obviously, they had the state championship run last year, and this year fell short of that. But just when covering Moscow and for several games and getting to know Coach Rod and the players there, just what kind of season did Moscow have, and they're the ones that ended with 2 consecutive one-run losses,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I mean Moscow, I think they underperformed actually. If we're talking about that, they had guys that were returning. They had a bunch of juniors this year that were ready to make a run at the state championship, and it was tough for them. They lost to Skyview 2 straight games when they were like basically ready to win and move on to the state tournament. They just needed to win 1 of 2 games against Skyview, and then boom, they're in the tournament, and they lost both games. Griffin Rod, the head coach of Moscow, like you mentioned, he said it was just heartbreaking. Like he said after that first loss, the guys just kind of lost they were kind of deflated, and it was just a heartbreaking loss in that first game. They couldn't get the big hit. It was a huge thing, he said. So they were always in it. It was a close matchup for both games, but they just couldn't get that big hit and move that offense overall. I think a huge thing for Moscow baseball is they're losing like 70%. It's like 70% of their roster is what they're losing. Yeah. They're losing guys like Butch Kiblin, J.P. Breeze, Keaton Clark, Andrew Hurley, Connor Isaacson. Losing those guys is huge, and I'm definitely concerned for Moscow baseball coming up next year. I think Ron has a good system in place, but it's going to be a whole new lineup for Moscow next year. It's going to be very, very different. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's interesting because, like you said, it's going to be a whole new lineup, but on the other hand, these coaches and their colleagues have been working with these kids, throughout their childhoods through little league and, younger and other levels of baseball. And so it's not like they're completely obviously they'll be brand new to high school baseball when they get there, but there's some familiarity and some trust, and I'm sure they've got some sort of plan. Obviously it's not ideal, but that's just obviously how it works as these guys get older and they come in these bunches. It seems like you want that consistent, contribution, but maybe it's just because, the guys ahead of them were so good that, a lot of the seniors are going to take those spots. And then you have these underclassmen, sophomores, and, some juniors next year who maybe didn't get as much playing time or didn't get the spotlight. And maybe all they need is the opportunity. So it'll be super interesting to see.
I do think that Griffin Rod is putting a system in place where it's going to be years and years of good Moscow baseball. I will say that.
Yeah.
I don't know about the run at the state championship every year, especially next year. But I will say there's a stark, it's not so stark that it's unbelievable, but there's a difference between the leadership that Darren Trainer has and Griffin Rod has. I think that Griffin Rod is more of a personal guy. He connects to his players in a different way than the Trainer does. He's a guy that really pours into their lives and they pour into his. Mm-hmm. I think that the personable part of being a baseball coach was important. I'm not saying that Rod's not an excellent baseball mind. I wouldn't say that, but I would say that the way that he leads his team is definitely more personality driven, more I guess relationship driven. It's different than Trainer. I think that the way that Rod pours into his players will pay into their next season for sure.
Yeah, it'd be super cool to see. And going over to the Whitepine League, it's a All-Whitepine League 2A baseball state tournament, right?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. We got Potlatch, we got Kendrick, Clearwater Valley, and Troy, and they're playing at Church Field too.
Right
We got moved from Orofino to Church Field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like important players. I mean, tell me about Potlatch a little bit, Sam.
Yeah, so Potlatch, I mean, they're like you said, they had just 2 losses, right? All year.
2 or 3,
Two are just they have had an incredible run this year, and kind of the quintessential Potlatch game that these players and fans and parents are going to remember for years and years and years is their 2A Whitepine League District Tournament Championship win over Troy, and they'll see Troy again likely this coming weekend. But in that game, it was a pitcher's duel. It was a 1-0 Potlatch win. Logan Carpenter outdueling Troy's pitcher Dominic Holden. Both excellent pitchers, but obviously the margin of error was slim. It was 0 pretty much. And, you saw Potlatch emerge with that 1-0 win. But
On top of that, I think it was a 1-hitter from Dominic Holden and he still lost the game.
Yeah. Like, you can't ask for much more than that. I mean, I guess you could, but at the end of the day, like, that's just 2 fantastic performances, and I think we're going to be in for more of a treat there from both those teams and the other teams in this tournament. It's going to be, if you're even just a baseball fan in Lewiston, like, go to Church Field this weekend, check it out. It's going to be fun.
I think that's definitely a draw for sure. I think also one thing that is important to talk about is Kendrick. Kendrick won basketball, they won football, and if they win baseball, I mean, that's like a historic feat right there.
Boys sweep right there, yeah.
Yes,
that would be excellent.
So yeah, Kendrick had an interesting season. They were undefeated for like 11 games. 11 games in the season they were undefeated, and I think they ended their season 15-6 overall. Mm-hmm. So they had a little bit of a slump there, but they have players like Maddox Kirkland and Morgan Boyer, guys that are going to be important come next week or this week. It's going to be. I think it's Kendrick versus Clearwater Valley is coming up. Do you know anything about Clearwater Valley, Sam?
Yeah, so Clearwater Valley, they've also obviously had an excellent season. It's so fun that all these teams are in the same league because they've been kind of just battling against each other, testing each other. And you see Clearwater Valley, Barack Meyer is kind of their star hitter of many capable hitters. He had a triple and a double in CV's 20-10 super regional win over Prairie this past weekend. And we're writing the box scores, talking to the coaches, reading the emails, and he's constantly reading Game Changer. He's constantly popping up there, and some of these players we get to know a little more by talking to the coaches. Some of them we just see their names on the page, but you remember the name Barack Meyer. Like, it pops up. He's constantly getting having multi-hit games and hitting triples, hitting doubles, and just showing up for the box score. And he did that this past weekend, and I think he's going to do that this weekend.
I think also an interesting thing with Whitepine, the Super Regionals, they were very different than like the Inland Empire Super Regionals. I think most of the teams played one team, and they had to win 2 out of the 3 game series. So it's different for sure. I mean, it's 2A, right? I think it's 2A Whitepine is. So it's different for Troy, Clearwater Valley, Kendrick, Potlatch to get into the state tournament, I guess. Who do you think is the favorite coming into the state tournament?
That's a great question. I got to go with Potlatch. I feel like when you win the league in such a fashion that they did, real zero margin of error pitchers duel, like, that's going to translate. Offensively, they've got the bats to get it done. I think there's more potent offenses that are in the white. I mean, obviously Kendrick and Clearwater Valley, maybe. I don't know. We don't have the statistics broken down for us.
Troy has been just always impressive. The way they win baseball games has been impressive all season. If I'm I guess, like, just from like a betting standpoint, if I'm betting these corn nuts, I might put some money on Troy too. I wouldn't be shocked to see Troy win this game. Dominic Holden, excellent pitcher. You mentioned pitch that 1-hitter. They've just got a good pitching staff. They've got some impressive bats. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Troy win this Whitepine League state championship.
Yeah, and all we know over the course of the year, all these teams were kind of beating each other, but it was interesting to see Troy was kind of the ones, they were in when Kendrick's side. I think they were one of the teams that beat Kendrick, maybe kind of.
They handed them their first loss.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. And so I think Troy is they've just kind of played this dark horse role. I think they've kind of been the underappreciated team that's been, getting the wins and paving their path forward. So
absolutely. And then Pullman Soccer, undefeated right now.
Right.
What are they, 21-0 or something like that?
Yeah, I think they're 21-0. Let me verify that. But Pullman Soccer is a great story in that, this is by far the most successful regular season in school history, the 37-year history of Pullman Soccer.
They've never gone
And
undefeated
they've never gone undefeated before. And this is their 4th straight district title they captured, regular season district title. And as of the release of this podcast, they will likely have either be playing, if you're listening, right at 4 p.m., or, be in the process of, or have already played Deer Park in the 2A Greater Spokane League District Tournament. But regardless of, what happens, keep your eyes on the Greyhounds and just and on one Greyhound in particular, Clarence Dolan is an incredible player. His family's from Haiti, moved here to the United States when he was a young kid. And so I think he's grown up in Pullman and around the soccer community. And one thing, and Clarence Dolan, he's you look at the box score, if you're just a box score watcher reading the area roundup in the Tribune, you're going to see Dolan's name show up once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, thrice, 4 times often. He had a 4 goal game in his most recent contest, actually against Deer Park, who they're about to face to end the regular season up in Spokane. And he is 2 away from Pullman's all-time goal scoring record. And so it's likely that he will get there, with a chance Deer Park, and then if they win, a chance to play for the league title. But obviously it's they're more than just Clarence Dolan. They've got Milo Wexler is a great goalkeeper. They've got Marcelo Romero, and it's all over who just set up these goals, and just Augie, who's an incredible, I forget his last name, but he had this incredible header that I saw live on their senior day. It was like that someone said, in the crowd, that you stack that goal into any level of soccer, and that's going to be a highlight moment. That's making Sports Center. Like it was obviously it was a Dolan assist, just kind of into the corner, and he headbutts it, races the goalie to the goal, and gets there first. Otherwise, that's a really scary collision. But he gets there first, knocks the ball in, and that was a surprisingly low-scoring game. Pullman won that game 2-1 over West Valley, who will probably be their competition in the championship if they make it. And so, a lot to love about Pullman. And the thing about Clarence Dolan, is he's a Coug. Well, not a Coug, but he's grown up in a town of Cougs. And guess where he's going? Montlake. Yeah, he's going to be a Husky, University of Washington Husky. And it's honestly Wazoo's fault, because Wazoo doesn't have a men's soccer team. If they had a men's soccer team, who knows? Maybe he could be the hometown hero. But he's staying in the state, going across to play for the Huskies in the Big Ten. A super great program for him to be a part of. And I think, only great things ahead.
Quick note about that header. So in high school, I was playing in gym class. We were outdoors playing soccer. Somebody hit a corner. They kicked a corner towards me. And I hit a header into the goal. Yeah. One of the greatest athletic moments of my life, right there. I remember that forever. I did a celebration afterwards. Great moment in my life, right there. I remember that really very clearly. But also talking about Pullman again more. Clarence Dolan. When I called Doug Winchell. Earlier this season. Pullman coach. It was one of their first games. And he's telling me Clarence Dolan. I said, "How do you spell that?" He's telling me about this. He's like, "Well, yeah, get ready to learn this name. You're gonna hear this name a lot." That's one thing that he said to me way earlier on in the season. Yeah. And future D1 athlete, if he breaks that record, it's gonna be amazing. He's an excellent athlete. I think he's very important to Pullman, and you can't discount how important he is to the Pullman soccer team. I would say.
Oh no, he's definitely the MVP. I mean, because he creates opportunities for other guys on the field. And with soccer 11-on-11, you'll have 3 or 4 defenders on Dolan himself. And so the fact that he's even able to get free and make goals in the first place is a testament to just his finesse. He's a very fast player, Doug Winchell said, and I saw it firsthand. And his ball handling, his finesse skills and technique are just next level and D1 level, frankly, obviously. And so that's, he's able to get out of these double, triple, quadruple teams and get free and get a goal, and then when he's in space, he's super dangerous. And so he's able to create that space for himself and create those opportunities for his teammates.
Yeah, he's the guy that's going to dish out the ball too, right?
Yeah.
And I think our next topic absolutely is softball. We got so many softball things happening right now. Greater Spokane League district tournament, and then Lewiston softball as well. I just covered Clarkston softball today. Well, yesterday, Monday, and they crushed. They won 20-2 against shoot.
Rogers, right?
Rogers.
Despite the rain.
Yeah, despite the. By the way, pouring rain. I literally went in my car during the rain delay. Could not handle it. I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Had to escape the rain. But even with a possibly slippery ball, they scored 13 runs in the first inning and just exploded offensively. They had a freshman, Olivia Tannehill. She only her fourth start ever in varsity. Pitched lights out, let 2 runs in the first inning, and then just did not allow another run in the rest of the game. It finished in the 5 innings due to the Mercer rule, but she only allowed 4 hits. No errors from the Clarkston defense. Clarkston's getting hot at the right time, and they're headed to play Deer Park. They're headed to play East Valley on Tuesday at 4 p.m. It's going to be very interesting to see what Clarkston can do if their bats stay hot, I guess, in that game. And it is loser out. Tell me about Lewiston softball, Sam.
Yeah, so Lewiston softball, they took the 5A Inland Empire League District Tournament Championship, and it was excuse me, it was an interesting tournament in that there's only 4 teams. There's Lakeland, there's Sandpoint, there's Moscow, and there's Lewiston, and so they did the tournament all in one day at 2 fields, Airport Park in Lewiston. So 2 fields adjacent to each other. There were moments where like the foul balls from one game would go into the field of the active playing field of the other game. And it was kind of chaotic, but they played back-to-back games. And what Lewiston did is that they took care of Sandpoint pretty decisively. And then against Lakeland, who looked pretty dangerous against Moscow and frankly had a really strong offense the whole way, they walked them off 9-8. And the way they did that is, before the game, they had just beaten Sandpoint pretty decisively. They're getting ready to go. I'm sure there's already nerves flowing, I'm sure, but they're ready to play this game. And then Ava Thorson, who is Lewiston's shortstop, gets hit in the face of a ball. She sustains a black eye. She's in pain.
This is pregame, right?
This is pregame. This is before any action has happened in the championship game. This is after they won the semifinal, before they're warming up for the championship. She gets hit in the face during warmups, and it's just, you feel horrible for her. And you can tell it's like no one wants to get hit in the face, but especially like during warmups, it's like, man, what is going on? But that kind of lit a fire, it seems, because Lewiston, Jenna Barney was their pitcher, and she was pretty exceptional. Lakeland is a dangerous offense, so they still got some runs off of her. But she dealt and struck out like 6 or something like that over the course of the 7 innings. And then you had Ava Thorson, who made some great plays at shortstop. You had just everyone making all their ABs count.
And then 1.5 eyes, right?
Well, yeah, that's how our coach described it. Ava Thorson was playing with 1.5 eyes, and then I'll just get to the point. In a dramatic moment in the 7th inning, they're down by 1. Ava Thorson leads off, with her 1.5 eyes, leads off the inning for triple. She just cranks the ball over the right fielder's head. She runs, rounds first, rounds second, sprints, slides home to third, and it's an amazing triple. And it's just like, oh man, I had the privilege of sitting next to her volleyball team. She's also a volleyball player, and so her friends were going crazy. It was cool, and they were actually if Ava didn't play in the game, they were gonna leave. They just full on said that. They're like, man, if she's not gonna play, we're gonna leave. But she played. She sustained the black eye and she played. And then Taryn Nuxel, who's next at bat, just takes lines a single up the left field line. Ava scores easily. It becomes a party at the plate. They're mobbing her, and then they don't forget about Taryn. They run over to Taryn. They mob her at first base. It's a party. Lewiston is district champions. They go to state, and they're going down to Nampa to play in the state tournament.
Okay, and that begins the 15th, right?
Yeah, May 15th, this weekend. So pretty exciting times for Lewiston. Great. That was probably one of the best live sporting events I've seen this year. We're only 5 months into the year, but that was pretty exceptional.
Sporting events this year too.
Yeah, we have. And honestly, it kind of reminded me of the Wazoo football San Jose State double overtime win, and that was crazy. But this was crazy too, and crazy in the ways that matter to a community and to the dedicated group that showed up. And so it was cool to see. Bengals got a lot of fight, and it'll be fun to see what they can do. And then also, this is the first time they've made state as a softball team since 2008. So pretty exceptional. Moving up, beautiful US 195 to the beautiful town of Pullman, Washington. We've got the Greyhound softball team. They're also in the 2A Greater Spokane League District Tournament, and they had a win over West Valley today. Trevor, what did you see from the Greyhounds?
Yeah, I mean the Greyhounds. I think they're 15-8 on the season or something like that. 14-8 on the season. Yeah. Taylor Wolf had 3 hits, 5 RBI. I think this Pullman team is prepared to play Deer Park on Tuesday at 4 and trying to put up a fight. I mean, they beat West Valley. It was 15-12. It was a high scoring game, but they just edged them. They just got right over them. And they played the first ranked Deer Park Stags, who were undefeated for most of the season, 19-2. And it's going to be a very difficult matchup for Pullman, but it's going to be very interesting to see. The Greater Spokane League is always just so chaotic. Yeah. There's things that can happen at any time. Same thing with Inland Empire, where they could beat Deer Park. They have to fight them to beat Deer Park. They've got players like Bailey Randall, Kinsey Rees, players that can hit and players that can get in that batter's box and score some runs. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday. But this Greater Spokane League tournament is going to be really interesting with Clarkston and Pullman playing in the semifinals.
Yeah, always pretty fun. And so we'll talk about LC State a lot more later in the week.
Yeah, LC State's huge week and huge next week coming up for LC State.
It's go time for Lewis Clark State baseball. Obviously, the NAIA opening round presented by Avista is happening right now over at Harris Field. And it's going to be fun. It has been fun so far. Day 1 was today. Lewis Clark State took care of Wayland Baptist 9-1. A pretty complete performance. Evan Canfield and Jace Taylor on the mound, just striking out a total of 13 guys. The offense slugged 3 home runs. Dominic Singarnelli, Jack Sheward, and Jacob Marquez, a former Washington State Cougar, hit home runs, and the offense was pumping. And so the way that tournament works, it's a field of 5. It's double elimination. And so the Warriors, they'll play one game on Tuesday, or will have played one game on Tuesday against Hope International, the reigning World Series champions. And then they'll play probably 2 games on Wednesday to, try to be the last team standing. And if necessary, a game on Thursday. 2 of the teams will play a game on Thursday. And so the Warriors hope that they are the last team standing. If they've got a crowded field, Cascade Conference foe, Oregon Tech is there. They played Hope International, the reigning World Series champions, close 3-2 today. Number 4 in the country, yeah. And then Wayland Baptist is number 22 in the country, but Warriors, with their ace on the mound, took care of them today. They could see them again later in the tournament. And then they've got Dickinson State from North Dakota also in there. They're facing elimination tomorrow. Well, thanks so much for listening to another episode of The Final Whistle. For Trevor, Junt, I'm Sam Taylor. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great week.